guys, welcome to this week's episode of Tracy's Tuesday Talks. I am honored that you're here. My name is Tracy Latona with Golden Rose Financial Coaching, where I help growth-minded people who are stressed and anxious about finances conquer their money goals. Today's topic is one that is near and dear to my heart, lots of personal experience in it. How to communicate with your spouse about finances, how to have a conversation about money with the person that you're probably the closest to. And a lot of people clearly struggle with this. It's listed as one of the biggest reasons for divorce is financial fights, along with intimacy and raising kids. Those are the top three reasons why people get divorced in most of the studies that I've been able to find. So let's take a 30,000 foot view at some practical ways of communicating. We're going to take a look at active listening, which is the number one tool for communication. We're going to take a look at maybe some different communication styles and why it's important to communicate with your spouse about money. The reason why this topic is so near and dear to my heart is because of the experience that my husband and I went through learning how to communicate and learning how to communicate about finances, period. We got married young and dumb. I was 19, he was 21. We didn't know anything about finances. We didn't know hardly anything about having a conversation, having a back and forth where people actually listen to each other. And it's actually money and communication are two of the biggest reasons why we got divorced. And money and communications is two of the three biggest things that we worked on right away when we got remarried. So I know that this topic can be really difficult for a lot of people. There's a lot of money trauma that people bring into relationships. There's a lot of fear, or they need to control something. But let's just breathe and let's pause and look at some practical ways to help increase communication with your spouse when it comes to money. So the first thing that I encourage is anytime that you're going to have a talk about finances, before that talk begins, I encourage you to just take a step back, breathe, maybe do some meditation exercises, just calm your minds, take about 90 seconds to decompress and reflect on what emotion am I feeling about this upcoming conversation? What is it? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Is it stress? Is it depression? Maybe there's no emotion because you and your spouse don't really talk about money. One of you handles it all on their own shoulders by themselves. And just really evaluating what emotion you're feeling, what's causing that emotion to happen, and where is that coming from? So for me, whenever it came to money arguments, for me, it was all about control. I had a lot of money trauma back from when I was a kid to my early 20s that I would bring into the situation in the form of, I need things to be a certain way, because if they weren't, I didn't feel safe. And that was a me problem. That was not a him problem. That was a me problem that through lots of therapy, I was able to work through by the grace of God. So what is it that you're feeling? Where is that emotion coming from? And what's causing it? The next thing that I encourage you to do is the best you possibly can. After you recognize those patterns, lay them down and start the conversation off on a positive. Start that conversation off with, hey, I noticed that we talked about this purchase. That felt really good. I'd like to keep doing that. Start off with something positive. Don't use all-inclusive words like you never, you always, we don't get to. That kind of language really puts people on the defensive. And that's not going to allow people's ears to be open. That puts people's walls right up. The next thing that I really want to talk about is reflect on your communication style. This is a big one that I get to help my clients with. So one of my client couples is she needs to know the details. She needs to understand everything surrounding the situation so she can make a decision that's best. She needs to understand the inner workings of everything. She needs the details. The husband in the situation is a retired veteran who's also a firefighter. His brain has been wired to make decisions very quickly based on information that's given really quickly. Too many details overwhelm him because he just needs the basic facts to be able to make a decision, like you do on the battlefield, like you do when people's lives are at stake. If you hesitate, you die. That's to put it very bluntly. So it's no wonder that when you have somebody who is very detail oriented, who needs a lot of details, married to somebody who, like, just give me the basic facts and we'll go from there, there's a lot of clashing. But understanding your different communication styles helps you understand where that other person is coming from and helps you both to be able to collaborate and create a structure that's going to help both of you learn how to communicate effectively. So, what this couple is working on is he's being patient as she's sharing the details, and she is understanding that he doesn't need to know about 12 things twice removed to be able to help him make a decision. So putting filters on that information to help create better communication is something that they're working on, and they're really, really good at it right now. And I'm really proud of the progress that they've made. So understanding your communication style and asking your spouse, hey, what's the best way that you communicate? Do you need a lot of details? Do you don't need a lot of details? What's the best way that you get information to make a decision? Communication styles. The next piece of it kind of ties back into what I mentioned earlier is, are you bringing your own story into the conversation? So what do I mean by that? Are you, when you go into a conversation about finances with your spouse, are you bringing your dukes up ready to fight because something happened in the past that's causing that? A better question to ask is, what's happening to cause the breakdown in communication? Is it because there's not any active listening? We'll get into that in just a moment. Is it because you crave control because that's a trauma response? That's a survival mechanism, as things need to go a certain way so I feel safe. Or what else is going on in that breakdown in communication that your story might play a part of? Once you understand, oh, yeah, I feel about money this way because this happened back here, because my parents did this and I saw my uncle do this. It helps you understand where your brain is wired. It helps you understand why you think the thoughts that you do. And it's a lot easier to set those bricks down, as Dr. John Deloney says, and be able to open your ears and listen. I mentioned active listening a couple of times already. Active listening is when you ask questions in a curious way, in a way that does not create somebody to go on the defensive right away, such as asking how and what versus why questions, and really just shutting your mouth, opening your ears, and listening with objective curiosity. Put anything that you have in your mind that's a preconceived notion out of your head. Cast out all judgments and anything else that might cloud the filter that words are coming through, and listen quietly. Ask what and how questions. Honey, I heard you say XYZ. What about that makes you feel a certain way? How, honey, I heard you say XYZ. How does that affect this decision in a non-defensive way? It's not, well, why do you feel that way? It's, what caused you to have that response? That was active listening, listening with radical curiosity, shutting your mouth and listening, not interrupting, and asking non-judgmental questions using what and how questions. The last thing that I want to bring up is, what do you and your spouse need to feel heard? Chances are, if you don't feel heard in the relationship, your spouse doesn't feel heard either. Let me re-say that. I know it hurts sometimes to hear. Chances are, if you aren't feeling heard in the relationship, your spouse doesn't feel heard either. What do you both need to feel heard? Is it active listening? Is it to understand that when somebody asks questions, it's not a threat? It's not putting somebody down to make you feel stupid. It's just understanding the situation better. What do you need to feel heard? And let your spouse know that. Use I feel statements versus casting blame on the other person, because ultimately, active listening has to do with us. Communication has to do with where we are as well. It starts with us, it starts with you. You cannot have effective communication with your spouse if you go in guns blazing, all defensive, ready to fight. You have to get your way. Understanding what happened to cause those reactions is going to be very imperative. If you and your spouse are having trouble communicating about marriage and you would like to have a third party come in and just have a conversation, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients tell me the way that we communicate is so different when there's a third party here and we actually get stuff done. If that's something that you and your spouse would like, please reach out to me via direct message on the social media platform that you're on. And I would love to set up a complimentary conversation with you. We'll take about an hour to just dig into your situation, figure out where you are, where you want to be, and how we can get you there, and provide resources. And if coaching seems like it's a good fit and that's something you're interested in, then we can definitely talk about that too. But in the meantime, action items for you include recognizing and discerning what you're bringing to the conversation, practice active listening, and also listening with no judgment, no filters casting that person in a negative light, and really working on communication to listen and resolve versus getting your own way and blaming. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel and get the word out about financial freedom and how it is possible. Thank you so much, guys. Have a blessed day.